Ilagay mo dun. Ayan. Ayan. Eh, bigyan mo.
Papa kasi nababasa.
Hello, nice. Galing ah. Yee. Anong pangalan mo? Kawawa.
We Filipinos have experienced many typhoons in our whole lives. However, when it comes to typhoon, why is that we still haven't done anything to lessen the effects brought by this natural disaster? How come that when this catastrophe occurs in our country, we as a community is still not prepared? I am Laimar P. Velasquez from grade 11 STEM B, and today I will be talking about how can we lessen the effects brought by typhoons in our country. No matter how old or how young you are speaking to about typhoons, here in the Philippines, everyone knows what a typhoon is, or as what we call it, the bagyo. Many typhoons have passed our country in times of our grandparents until the time of our current generation. And each year passes, these typhoons get stronger and stronger due to climate change. And with this, it can result to many problems, may it be financial, structural, or even problems that can cause death. As a people who are living in a typhoon-prone area, we cannot help but wonder what can we do in order to lessen the effects brought by this natural disaster? What must we learn more about typhoons in order to have a much deeper understanding on what it is and how can we prevent it? Considering all the questions that we have put into our minds, we can say that typhoon is a very serious issue here in our country, for it has claims hundreds if not thousands of lives every single year. So what can we possibly do, plan, or create in order for us to lessen the casualties and destructions brought by this sad disaster? Basing on our geographical state, the Philippines is prone to typhoon. It is because of its geological feature in which we are located very close to the Pacific Ocean, the source of all typhoons that our country has ever encountered. In order for us to have a much deeper understanding on what a typhoon is, we must first learn how is a typhoon created, what are the major results of a typhoon, and what should we do when there is a typhoon. A typhoon is created when winds blow into the areas of the ocean where water is warm. These winds collect moisture and rises, while colder air moves in below, and with this, it creates pressure, thus becoming a typhoon. The result of a typhoon can vary with just very light drizzle up to very heavy rain and strong winds that can result to flood, landslides, and even storm surge. As a simple member of our community, what can we do in order for us to prepare when there is a typhoon? First, we should prepare our things such as food supply, water supply, communication devices, and our valuables. Second, we must be alert at all times by the things that is happening around us. And lastly, when called to evacuate, we should follow the one in charge of the evacuation team in order for us to avoid any harm. By knowing all these basic things, we can lessen the chances of us being harmed or affected by the wrath of the said natural disaster. Research shows that in the Philippines, the one that could be heavily affected by typhoons is the capital city, Metro Manila. Metro Manila could be heavily affected not in the reason that typhoons pass there very often, but it is because of its physical features, like the very dense population that the city has, which causes severe pollution, its area being surrounded by Sierra Madre, and with this, when heavy rainfall occurs, it will all go downhill and Manila will serve as its basin or its water catcher. With all these things, Metro Manila is known to be prone with very high floods that can reach up to second floor of houses, and with this alone can be a major threat to the people living in that area, especially the less fortunate ones. In the technical side, in order for us to combat the problem of our capital city, we must gather all the ideas of our social workers, especially our architects and engineers, so that they can create a possible plan in order for us to create structures that lessens the effects of said typhoons. We can create plans such as strengthening and renewing our drainage systems, and with this, we can help clean up our environment. We can also create disaster bases like structures that can be found underneath Tokyo, Japan, where water is collected down there instead of being collected on the surface where people are living. Lastly, another suggestion is to create the channels or canals that were planned by different architects way back ahead of our time so that the water from Sierra Madre will redirect into the ocean instead of going straight to Manila. Philippines, a country that is visited with many typhoons every single year that resulted to too much destructions of houses and infrastructures and have claimed thousands of lives every single year. By learning more and understanding what a typhoon is and of course urban planning, we can definitely help our country in protecting ourselves from this sad natural disaster. And at the same time, we can give people a safe and new and of course clean environment to live with.